Welcome back to HSC AMA. I'm your host, Julian Mchinsky, joined by Kahlil Trocmé, Manager, Business Development at Aurora Solar. Welcome, Kahlil.
Thank you, Julia. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
Just a little context for all of you joining. Most of you already met Kahlil, but for those of you who haven't, here's a little intro. So from bootstrapping startups to his tenure at the French Embassy, Salesforce DC, and Drift, Khalil gained a wealth of experiences, is an entrepreneurial-minded and competitive sales leader with a proven track record of driving revenue growth. Just from personal note, Khalil has an insane acumen when it comes to going to market as a motion and business development, which is really rare. So love to top into this. And Kahlil, anything we missed before, we start just interrogating for any questions?
I'm getting a little bit of feedback. Everything is repeating. I'm not sure if you're experiencing this as well.
Oh, so a little hack. You just mute the website if you're looking if you're watching the
I'm hearing everything in double right now. I'm unable to just a second.
Live TV. Just close the landing page and we'll be good to go.
I'm sorry, Julia. Everything is overlapping on the audio. So I'm hearing myself from 30 seconds ago.
Yeah, just a second.
Close the landing page. Okay, got it. Good to go. Sorry about that.
Is it better?
Better. Good to go now.
Google Chrome issues.
Okay, I'm all yours. I was hearing everything in double. It's very hard for me to hear you.
I know it happens sometimes. Yeah, you just have to mute it. Anyways, question one, how do you know where to prioritize your time while prospecting?
Yeah, I think you have to be cognizant of which channel worked the best for you. When I was a rep and the team that I managed, we mostly book our meeting via phone and email, and sometimes LinkedIn DM. So yeah, you have to be cognizant of okay, which channels yield the highest ROI, which channels am I really good at prospecting, and typically speaking, top performers have 2 or 3 channels that they mastered, whether that's cold calls, emails, maybe LinkedIn DMs. And so what I teach my reps is, be focused on one activity at a time. If you're going to cold call, just cold call for a couple hours. If you're going to send emails, just send emails for a couple hours. But be hyper focused on the highest yielding channels. And so, it's about dissecting your activity in a way that makes sense and only focusing on one thing at a time. As human beings, we think we're good at multitasking. We're actually terrible at it. And so the thing that I try to coach my reps is, block out a couple hours and execute one activity and then move on to the next phase. And so at my company, we book about 90% of our pipeline via the phone and maybe 10% via email and LinkedIn DMs. So most of our days are spent on the phone, but also reaching out to prospect via email. Something I like to say is spark curiosity over email and book over the phone. Those 2 combinations are lethal for outbound sales development.
What are the optimal cadences to set meetings?
Yeah, so we leverage, so there's a couple schools of thoughts on this. The ones that I've implemented within my team are the Goji sequence, which, is being implemented by most software company. But about a month ago, I actually implemented the Blitz sequence from Justin Michael, and that has yielded awesome results. So we have 2 cadences, the Goji sequence and the Blitz sequence by Justin Michael. And both of these strategies have yielded amazing results for the past couple of years.
How much personalization do you use?
While personalization is important, I don't think it's the most important thing. By personalization, for me, personalization means, do you have a thorough understanding of your buyer persona? Who are we reaching out to? Are we reaching out to sales, marketing, engineering? or maybe support, having a thorough understanding of the goals and responsibilities, but more importantly, like what tangible problems are you solving for these specific buyer personas? And so when we think about the way an email should be written is like, one, are you highlighting the problem that folks are experiencing? And are you talking about how you're actively solving these problems and the tangible benefit that comes with your solution? So, whether I get an email it's like, hey, Kahlil, you went to school in Wisconsin, I don't care. Neither does the buyer, neither does the seller. It's like, what problems can you solve for me? And so I always try to put myself in the shoes of my buyer when I write sequences is my message relevant to the problems that you're facing on a daily basis? Am I doing a good job at explaining how my product, its features and functionalities address this problem? And what are the tangible benefits or ROI of my solution for you as a company or for you as a leader? So I think personalization matters in that specific aspect, but I don't think mentioning the fact that I went to school in Wisconsin really matters, or it's not going to affect my reply rate. At the end of the day, either you are able to solve a problem or you won't make it within a specific marketplace. So personalization matters, but only when it comes to the core responsibility of the specific buyer persona, whether it's above the line or below the line. And are you doing a good job explaining how your product solves these specific problems for these specific buyer personas? So that's how I think about personalization. If you think about it this way, then personalization really matters. I see too many generic template emails being sent out. They don't do a good job at educating the buyer upon the problems that they experience, because sometimes buyers have no clue that they have a problem, right? So it's our job to educate them upon the problems that they may be experiencing. So I hope that answers your question, Julia.
The question is not mine, but here's one for me. Behind the scenes, we connected a couple of times, and I know that your unique forte is actually, you showed me this like massive go-to-market messaging framework, the one that you build with companies. And where I'm going with this, Kahlil, is it's really rare that sales leaders generally think like marketers, and I don't want to limit like one function or the other. I actually believe that it's the same thing, one to one, one to many, but unfortunately it's not massively practiced. So I'm curious to learn more about your personal journey. What made you get into the strategic side of things, like more marketing, kind of commonly known as marketing side of things, wider go to market side of things, and how do you implement it? What's your advice for folks watching this?
Yeah, I developed my expertise during my days at the French Embassy Trade Office. So my job while I was there was to help French CEOs deploy their go-to-market strategies in the United States. So every 3 months for 4 years, I would work with a different software startup. And that kind of built my expertise in terms of knowing how to work with a brand new software platform, understanding the competitive landscape. And so what I did for 4 years was the steps that I would follow was, one, having a thorough understanding of your SaaS platform features and benefits. What is it that you're offering to the marketplace? Second, doing a complete competitive analysis so you can understand who you're going against on the American market. And then the third step would be what I refer to as a buyer persona matrix, which is a document I showed you during our meeting. And essentially, this document essentially encapsulates everything that you need to have in order to build a go-to-market playbook, meaning that for example, here at my company, we sell to sales, marketing, operations, and C-levels. And so what I did is establish a matrix that says, okay, we're selling to sales, marketing, operations, and C-levels. What are different goals and responsibilities of each buyer personas, being as descriptive and as precise as possible? Next to it, what tangible problems are these folks experiencing on a daily basis, right? So what tangible business problems can we solve for them? Attach it to what solutions is your company providing, and what are the tangible benefits of these solutions? And you could get into a rhythm where every problem that your buyer persona faces can be aligned with the tangible benefits of your product and overlap them in such a way. And so the document that I showed you earlier was what I refer to as a buyer persona matrix. and the buyer persona matrix helped me build a go-to-market playbook that has generated hundreds of millions of dollars for my company. And so, I think my experience at the French embassy were in my formative years where I learned to think like a marketer, but also like a sales rep. And then once you have your buyer persona matrix done, it's like now comes the time for creative writing, copywriting, building sequences, templates, cold call scripts. And everything needs to be problem centric. The more problem centric you are, the more successful your playbook will be. So it's really about educating buyers upon the problems that you solve for, and then showing them the features and functionalities that have a direct correlation or impact on these problems that they're experiencing, and explaining that in a creative and fun way. Nobody likes to read boring sales emails or like templated or like a huge paragraph. So I use a lot of imagery, GIFs, pictures that are representative of the product itself, but also creative copywriting. Like, can I explain the most painful problem that you're experiencing in one sharp, concise sentence? And then within 2 or 3 bullet points, show you exactly how we're going to solve that business problem for you. And so I think, I'm very thankful to have had the opportunity to work for the French Embassy Trade Office for 4 years. And that has enabled me to become the manager that I am, and help my team generate millions of dollars in pipeline on a monthly basis. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. And I'm curious, like when you talk about the French embassy, what was the actual job? And would you advise other folks to not only, work in SaaS or like, I don't know, startups, companies, like what would be the route that based on your experience and the folks that that are the most successful leaders in sales, what's the route? I know that there's
Yeah,
no common answer, but
I think I was very fortunate to land this job at the French Embassy Trade Office, and I was very much so working in SaaS. The only difference is that I had the opportunity to work with a different founder every 3 or 4 months. So from that perspective, I think that anybody who's looking to succeed in sales owes it to themselves to like be just as aggressive on and off the court. What I mean by that is like you're going to learn your craft by executing out on the field, placing thousands of cold calls, sending emails, sending LinkedIn DMs. But you can perfect your technique by educating yourself off the field, listening to podcasts, reading a ton of sales books. I like to think that like I'm maniacal about perfecting my craft, meaning that like when I'm not working or managing teams, I'm reading books or listening to podcasts, continually trying to educate myself. And I think from that perspective, it's put me in a position to become a master of my craft, so to speak. But it's a never-ending process. I can never say like I've mastered my craft and I'm done. I'm always trying to educate myself because things change dramatically very swiftly. And so, from my perspective, like get your hands on as many books as possible, but also you learn more by doing than reading. And so anybody who wants to become, an AE or maybe a manager, you're going to have to be in the trenches, learning from your failures and learning from your successes in order to get to where you want to be, whether that's an account executive or manager or maybe director or VP. Mastering that craft takes years. It took me a decade of hard work to get to where I'm at. And I think, people are trying to look for shortcuts, but there's no such thing as a shortcut. Like you have to do the work relentlessly for a number of years in order to get to where you want to be. So, yeah.
Okay, last question for me, and let's just blitz like through
Let's do
30
it.
questions. So the question is, we love to use the expression fail forward in our community. And it's only a failure if you don't learn, right? So I'm curious, what are your biggest reflections based on your failures and learnings too?
Yeah, I think failure is just part of the process of succeeding. Like nobody who's ever succeeded hasn't failed. Um, I think failure just increased my level of grit and perseverance. And I think that's the biggest lessons that I've learned from failing forward. I've failed plenty of times. I've gotten hung up upon. I've missed quota before. I haven't always had a perfect track record, and I'm still learning and failing till this day. But I think the thing I appreciate the most about sales is that we're the professional athletes of the business world, and anytime we face failure, we either have two choices: we can give up and lay down, or we can get back up and show grit and perseverance. Um, and so, from that perspective, I see failure as just part of the process. Like nobody who's ever succeeded ever not failed. So, from that perspective, failure to me is just learning. Those two words are synonymous, in my opinion.
10 minutes. Let's fly.
Let's do it.
Do you believe in permission-based openings?
That's a good question. Yes and no. I think both work. I like to push my reps on being a little bit more assertive. One of the openers that one of my reps is using is, can you hear me okay? And people say yes, and that's his permission-based opener. So I think there's creative ways around not having permission-based opening. I think both work, but I don't have a specific opinion because I've seen both work either or without.
How many voicemails do you leave?
As a rep, I rarely left voicemails, but my team is leaving voicemails. I think it's a touch point that matters, but I don't think it's super consequential for pipeline building. If people want to pick up the phone and have a conversation, great, but rarely do we ever get callbacks from voicemail. So two schools of thoughts here, either work, but to me, it has never put a huge dent into my pipeline, so to speak.
What are your favorite tech stacks?
Outreach, Zoom Info, Salesforce, of course, LinkedIn Sales Navigator. If you have those four tools, you can do quite a bit in terms of building pipeline.
What made you so successful at companies like Drift as compared to your peers?
Outworking and outlearning. First one in the office, last one to leave, making more cold calls, sending more emails, being more aggressive, and just being willing to never be outworked by anybody else around me.
What are your favorite sales books?
Gap Selling by Keenan and Fanatical Prospecting by Jeb Blunt. These are two of my favorite sales books of all time.
What are your mentors? Who are your mentors and how did you find them?
I don't necessarily have mentors. I have role models. I think one person that stands out for me is Kevin Dorsey. He's the person I look up to in the sales industry. Just being a black male in tech, there's not a lot of VP level who look like me, and so he's a source of inspiration.
Which methodologies work well for you?
In terms of sales methodologies?
Yep.
I don't think sales methodologies apply so much to the BDR world. What we do here is diagnose a problem via conversation, pitch a solution, and then we're selling 30 minutes. We're not selling the platform, right? So like I'm trying to remind my reps, like we're selling 30 minutes worth of time. We're not selling a platform, but I'm a big fan of like when we hop into cold calls is introduction, problem diagnosis, briefly pitch a solution that would make the customer or prospect feel dumb for saying no. Say something so good that that person is so intrigued to hop on a quick call with us. So prime diagnosis, pitching solutions, and getting them on the books.
What was the most challenging moment in your career?
I think Drift was probably the most competitive sales floor I've ever experienced. We should joke that there was no praise; it was all predators on the sales floor. The amount of work that I put in order to be number one is something that we'll forever remember. And I went a year and a half without missing quota, and that was a difficult task within itself. I think I sourced about $16 million in pipeline during my tenure there. But that was the hardest I've ever worked in my entire life. And so thankful for the opportunity to have worked with such a talented group of folks. And those were the formative years in terms of like really mastering my craft.
What are your tips for getting hired and finding the right companies?
Have a clean looking LinkedIn profile. Try to read as many books as possible. Educate yourself. Whenever you're given an opportunity with a company, work twice as hard as the highest performer. Dress appropriately for an interview. Do your homework. Be thoughtful about the type of questions that you ask, and you should have the level of knowledge. Like, you should be able to answer any questions about a product as if you were already part of the sales team. When I walked into Aurora Solar, I had the buyer persona matrix that I showed you earlier completely done. And the lookup on the executive space when I showed them my go-to-market playbook was kind of priceless. And so you should be able to bring value before you even step in the door.
Who was the best boss you ever had and why?
That's a good question. I'm a big fan of my current boss, Michael Garcia, and also Alexander Tishka at the French Embassy Trade Office. I think it's about not micromanaging, giving trust, enabling people, and empowering them to execute the work at a high level.
What's the secret to managing reps?
I'm still trying to figure this one out. I think it's about, first of all, establishing trust, giving them the resources and tools needed to execute the work, meaning buyer persona matrix, sequences, cold call scripts, templates, training, coaching, and development, and also like fostering a culture of inclusivity and overall trust, and trying to make the work fun because it can be very challenging, especially when working in a remote environment.
What's allowed you to gain technical acumen?
Reps and sets. Nothing like being in the trenches, working and learning by failure. I think you can accelerate your career by just executing on the field, but also like making a conscious effort to like remember the lessons that you're being taught, and also taking the time to read books and listen to podcasts. So my motto says outwork and outlearn. These two principles have enabled me to get to where I'm at.
Tell us about your playbooks.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of playbooks. I think it's the thing I appreciate the most. To me, there's specific things you need to accomplish in the playbook. One is buyer persona matrix that I referred to earlier. Second is competitive analysis to understand how you can differentiate yourself from competitors from a messaging and positioning standpoint. And then creative writing in terms of like establishing your goji or blitz sequences and cold call scripts. All these documents gathered together, which took me years to master, have enabled me to build countless playbooks for a lot of SaaS startups and enable them to like double, triple, or quadruple their pipeline. And so I think the thing that's most interesting about playbooks is the copywriting and creative writing that goes along with explaining what is it that your startup does. But fundamentally, you can't do any of this if you don't have a buyer persona matrix that is well crafted. I think this is the centerpiece of any good go-to-market strategy playbook.
Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
I'd like to become a VP of global sales development at a fast-growing company.
Do you think sales can be learned in books?
To a certain degree, but you learn more by doing rather than reading. So anybody who wants to get in sales or aspires to get in sales, go apply to a BDR, SDR job and cut your teeth on your job. You can read a million sales books about cold calling, but you'll learn more by cold calling than you ever will in a book.
What are some examples of building quality pipeline fast?
Most of the hypergrowth companies that I've worked with, whether there was a drift or here at Aurora Solar, it's about velocity, speed, acumen, being aggressive on the phone, and not taking no for an answer. And so it's about multi-threading and sending the right message to the right buyer persona, and for the recipient to read the sales email as if like whoever wrote this knows exactly about what is it that I do for a living, and they hit the mark within the first 5-10 seconds of the email. So, but also you have to have you have to recruit a team of hungry reps who are ready to run into walls for you. So I think it's a mix of a lot of things, but proper playbook and having a team that is hungry to succeed, who are willing to go the distance with you.
Do you prefer to work with internally centralized or decentralized enablement teams?
Centralized. I think everything under one roof is better. whether I'm working with enablement, marketing, or my BDR team or the AE team. The more centralized the information, the more you can row in the same way, so to speak. So that's my preference.
What's the $1 million secret of outreach?
A buyer persona matrix. I just had a talk with Founders Inc. about this. The simple buyer persona matrix that I showed you earlier, Juliet, is a $100 million document. It is the foundational basis of how you would go about reaching out to your buyers. At the end of the day, if you can't properly highlight the problems that you solve for in a clever way and show your buyers how you go about solving these problems with your features and functionalities, you're going to have a hard time, sparking curiosity in a marketplace. Again, it's spark curiosity via email, book over the phone is my motto and my team's motto for the past couple of years. But in order to do this, like, you have to have a genuine understanding of like your buyer personas and the problems that you solve for. If you don't have that, you don't have anything.
Beautiful, Kahlil. We're already out of time, but let's hit those 4 questions.
Let's do it.
You can just literally give me 1-word answers or just really fast. How many emails do you send per day?
I personally don't send many emails per day. My team does.
How are you leveraging ChatGPT and OpenAI?
Often enough on a daily basis.
Who are your heroes?
I'm gonna go to like my parents and my grandfather. I think my family members are people who've played a huge role within my life. So these folks are a source of inspiration, and they're my why. So that's why I do what I do.
The last question, what is your why?
My family. Just taking
Amazing.
care of my family. Yeah.
And the last question for me, who are you most excited to work with on agency? What is your ICP, Kahlil?
I'm most excited to work with you and Justin. The few conversations I've had with you two have been nothing but wonderful, and I'm excited to continue partnering with you two. And what is my ICP at my current job, you mean?
On this marketplace. So we have a lot of salespeople
Oh,
watching
got
this.
it. Yeah, of course.
Or really, yeah.
Anybody who is looking to generate pipeline, who's looking for top of funnel strategies, and who is struggling to book meetings. I am very much a top of the funnel expert, so anything lead generation related, buyer persona matrix, playbooks, cold call script sequences, templates. I'm a master of my craft in that perspective, and so if you're looking to book more meetings or have more conversation with your ICPs, that's what I specialize in, and I look forward to potentially working with you all.
Thank you so much, Kahlil. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching this event. If you have more questions, please submit them, and we'll do another AMA session. And book your one-on-one with Kahlil. He is featured on the platform. And yeah, your wallet will thank you. We will thank you.
Julia, thank you so much.
Pleasure. See you soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.